This amateur film was made in the period from January to April 2012. It is composed of 5 parts and tells about Indian masters, saints, enlightened beings, avatars, gurus and their ashrams. It speaks about the places where these gurus arranged and are still giving satsangs, and about the places where some of them were buried. In the first part, you will get acquainted with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, Ramesh Balsekar, Sri Ranjit Maharaj, Swami Bhagawan Nityananda from Ganeshpuri, Jiddu Krishnamurti, Sri Mata Amritanandamay, Sri Subhananda. In the second part, you'll get acquainted with Ramachandra Prat, Swami Ramdas, Swamigal, Sri Aurobindo The Mother. In the third part, you will get acquainted with Ramana Maharshi, Radha Ma, Temple Sai Baba from Shirdi, Sri Shiva Shakti Ammaiyar, Sri Satya Sai Baba. In the fourth part, you will get acquainted with Sri Brahmam. In the fifth part, you will get acquainted with Devraha Baba, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ISKCON, Halilol Poonjaji Papaji. Nothing can replace knowing yourself. Indian masters and their ashrams. Third part. In the third part, you will get acquainted with Ramana Maharshi, Radha Ma, Temple Sai Baba from Shirdi, Sri Shiva Shakti Ammaiyar, Sri Satya Sai Baba. The final truth is so simple. It is nothing else but remaining in your original pure state. It is all that you have to do. Sri Ramana Maharshi. In the distant 1896, a 16-year-old schoolboy was suddenly gripped by a strong fear of death. Unable to cope with the feeling of imminent death which overwhelmed him, young Ramana Maharshi, he was then called Venkataraman, lay down and surrendered to the vivid experience of dying. But it wasn't a detached intellectual understanding or reflections about death. In several minutes, the youth went through reproduction of the experience of dying. He watched how his limbs get cold, how the heartbeat stops, how the breath of death approaches him. In short, he clearly felt the ending of physical and mental functions. But the youth had a reasonable question. Well, the body is dead, and what is next? At the last moment of his dying, he became aware that his real nature is indestructible and that it has nothing to do with the body, mind, or personality. The deepest awareness came that everyone considers himself to be, dies with the body and the mind. But nevertheless, when this false I disappears with all the rest, the sensation of pure beingness, awareness I am, remains. Young Ramana understood that it is exactly what I really is, not the body, mind, or personality, or the sensation of individual I which dies, but I which is eternal. This experience was so deep and transforming that it became permanent and irreversible. Since that moment, his understanding of being an individual person disappeared and never occurred. Venkataraman didn't mention to anyone about his experience, and during 6 weeks maintained visibility of behavior of an ordinary schoolboy. Everywhere he saw only light and tried to somehow live with it. But it happened to be an unbearably difficult, and in the end of the 6th week, Ramana left home and, guided by inner urge, slowly made his way to Arunachala, sacred mountain and pilgrimage center in the South India. The choice of Arunachala was far from being accidental. In his experience, Ramana saw the sacred mountain as his guru, and he affirmed later that it was exactly the spiritual power of Arunachala which brought him to self-realization. The word Arunachala as if appeared inside the youth, and he went to the mountain, which was long since revered by Hindus as manifestation of Lord Shiva on earth. On arrival, Ramana threw away all his belongings and gave himself completely to the recently discovered experience that his real nature is formless, inherent consciousness. Immersion in this state was so intense that he completely forgot about his body and surrounding world. Insects mercilessly bited into his skin. The body starved, as very seldom he was in a state allowing to take food, and his hair and nails became so long that nothing could be done with them. After 2 or 3 years of such state, a slow returning to physical norm started, but years were needed for the total completion of this process. His perception of himself as consciousness was not touched by such physical transition, and later on remained uninterrupted and not tarnished. According to Hindu terminology, he realized Atman, that is, realized on direct experience that nothing exists separately from undivided and universal consciousness, lived in unmanifest form as being, and in manifest form as the emergence of the universe. In due time, you will understand that your true grandeur starts where your existence ends. Ramana Maharshi. After a few years of life on the slopes of Arunachala, inner awareness of Venkataraman started to express itself as external spiritual radiance. It attracted a small circle of followers, which started to constantly expand. Ramana Maharshi, as his disciples started to call him, stepped on the path of teaching, although most of the time he remained silent. Instead of giving oral prescriptions, he constantly radiated silent force or energy, which calmed the minds of people who were tuned to it, and occasionally it gave them direct experience of the state in which Bhagavan himself was constantly immersed. This state Ramana Maharshi often called silence, and said that staying in it gives much more than long talks or practices. Subsequently, he became more inclined to give oral instructions. But even then, silent prescriptions of Maharshi invariably poured on visitors, same way as the shining of his serene smile. Anyone capable to take advantage of the light of the silence of Bhagavan could always join this state in the presence of the teacher. Daily traditional services are held over this shrine of Ramana Maharshi, but it is clearly felt that these rituals are not the main event in the ashram. Every day, a lot of people gather in the spacious halls, but you can not see religious fanaticism and zeal on their faces. Although in the evenings, the Hindus organize here peculiar Maharshis chantings. Gradually, Bhagavan became more and more famous. Thousands of followers all over the world flocked to the ashram. But what became revolutionary, innovative, was the method credited to Maharshi, technique of self-inquiry with the help of questioning, who am I? The last was considered by many people as the most distinctive feature of his teaching. Ramana Maharshi was the first who clearly and intelligibly encouraged his followers and all truth seekers to pay attention to their divine core, Atman or real self. Direct the attention inside and find the source from where appear all thoughts and everything else. The case of Ramana Maharshi represents a heart understanding which is reflected in his teaching, advising his listeners to just be, follow I am and remain in the I am. Founded at the time of Ramana Maharshi, Ashram in Tiruvannamalai greatly expanded, and it is extremely popular nowadays among Western pilgrims. From outside, it is an ordinary Indian ashram with all attributes of classical ashrams such as mandir, cowshed, dining room, dormitories, free food for sadhus, and ordinary Hindu pujas. But on the other hand, something elusive distinguishes it from other places of pilgrimage. Here there is freedom, emancipation, starting from the appearance. No one in the Ramana ashram forces men not to wear shorts and women to wear skirts. And finishing with photo and video shooting. Here you can film whenever you like and with any camera, be it on ashram's territory, in the temple, in the hall, during puja or at any other time. Apparently, Ramana ideas and the force of his presence reflects in this way on all those present in the ashram. In the Ramana Maharshi ashram, one of the most honorable and sacred actions is going around Arunachala mountain and climbing to its top. Most pilgrims do it. Arunachala itself, long before Maharshi, was considered in India to be a sacred Shiva mountain, but the name of Bhagavan Sri Ramana, it seems, brought to it an additional and special respect and reverence. To climb the top of Arunachala is a dream, desire and honor for thousands of Maharshi followers. Moreover, from the top of Arunachala, a beautiful view opens on the famous Shiva temple in Tiruvannamalai. On the slopes of Arunachala, there are two caves where once lived Ramana Maharshi. These caves got the name Skandashram and Virupaksham. Now, small outbuildings are joined to them, and people come here to sit in silence and reverence. Now, Ramana Maharshi is one of the most famous and respected Advaita teachers. Maharshi is famous by the power of his presence, which was so obvious for most people coming to him. But primarily, he is famous for the incredible strength of the transmission and for the expression of this presence. The life of Ramana Maharshi is thoroughly studied, and many books are written about him. He died of cancer in 1950 at the age of 70. There is nothing like awakening. There is no one as awakened. Radha Ma.
I am not this, I am not that. I am what I am.
Radha Ma was born in Hyderabad. According to Indian traditions, her parents married her and she went to her husband's home to Bangalore. For some time, she worked in the company of her husband's relatives in accounting. Radha Ma was young, beautiful and successful. Everything in her life was going on safely and successfully.
See, always this mind wants something higher. If you go to the material world, it wants to be rich. If you go to the emotional world, it wants to be loved. If it is the spiritual, it wants enlightenment. Always the higher things mind seeks. There is no such thing like enlightenment. There is no such thing as awaken. We are already that. We are already eliminated. We are not ignorant to be enlightened.
Enlightenment came through this beautiful married woman. It completely transformed and changed her life. Radha Ma made unprecedented, left her husband, her job, her family, and started to lead the life of a woman sadhu. People started to gather around her. Many from them became her devotees. In recent years, Radha Ma lived in a house on the northwest side of Arunachala, not far from Tiruvannamalai. 3 sannyasins lived together with her. One of them was her former husband. Till 2009, Radha Ma regularly held satsangs in a small temple on Productional Road, not far from her house. On the night of March 5, 2011, an event happened which plunged into shock many followers of Radha Ma. She declared that all the devotees are attracted to her attractive physical shell and do not see that what she is pointing at. To destroy this attachment, she poured some kerosene on her body and put fire. Radha Ma was brought to hospital with terrible burns. Without regaining consciousness, she died the next day, 6 March 2011.
There's no others here. It's only I exist here, nobody else. Or if you want to be more in the worldly term, to be humble, I say God exists. I am God and you are God and everything is God here. If you don't like that, because this eye is very confusing for most of the people. They say it's whether small eye or big eye. So we use the word God. God exists here, it's nothing else. It's single, there are no many here. It's only one, it's God. There's no difference at all.
From the photos on the grave, beautiful woman's face smiles light, as if reminding something that you cannot express with words. Failures are not boulders that block your way. On the contrary, they are steps to your victory. Sai Baba of Shirdi. In the end of 19th, beginning of 20th century, in the village of Shirdi, Maharashtra state, lived and taught a famous Indian sage, miracle worker and preacher, Sai Baba of Shirdi. During his life, he became widely known in India. Not only Hindus were coming to him for help and blessing, but also Muslims, Parsas and even Christians. But Sai Baba is especially venerated for the uniting of two religions, Hinduism and Islam. In his life and teaching, Shirdi Sai Baba tried to embrace and reconcile both religions. He lived in a mosque and was buried in a Hindu temple. Sai Baba taught using Hindu and Muslim practices, using words and methods of both traditions. He defiantly made namaz in the mosque and prayed in the Hindu temple, stressing that he was addressing to the one and the same God. Shirdi Sai Baba worked wonders, rid of diseases and performed different secret desires of pilgrims who came to him. It made him incredibly popular. Baba permanently maintained a burning fire in the temple and distributed vibhuti, sacred ashes, to all his devotees as a miraculous means to cure all diseases and a magic elixir for inner transformation. Sai Baba was worshipped as a god avatar. He received such loud Hindu titles as Sadguru, Parabrahma and Yogi Raj. He was considered to be an incarnation of God. Another Indian saint and avatar, Satya Sai Baba, declared in 20th century that he is reincarnation of Shirdi Sai Baba. Sai Baba of Shirdi died 15th October 1918 and was buried in the place Shirdi. A mandir was built there, which is now a place of pilgrimage for the followers of Sai Baba. Millions of pilgrims visit annually places related to the life of Shirdi Sai Baba. He still remains the most revered saint of India and a living spiritual force, attracting people from all walks of life and from many corners of the world. Sai Baba is still worshipped and even temples in his name are open all over India. For instance, one such temple, dedicated to Sai Baba of Shirdi, is situated not far from Tiruvannamalai. Here, traditional Hindu rituals and pujas take place daily. And after visiting this temple, it can be judged what represents Sai Baba's teaching in terms of rituals. Shiva Shakti Ammaiyar. In the town of Tiruvannamalai lives an elderly woman presently known as Sri Shiva Shakti Ammaiyar. She became famous thanks to a long vow of silence. Shiva Shakti during many years didn't pronounce a word and, as her followers claim, reached realization. It is known that since her childhood, Shiva Shakti was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. She tried to spend her whole day in worshipping and devotion to Shiva. Gradually, the young Shiva Shakti stopped completely to pay attention to ordinary things. Her aspiration to unite with the divine occupied completely her thoughts and her existence. All her life, Shiva Shakti aspired to peace and aloneness. She preferred not to communicate with people, wanted to be left alone, till she realizes her real nature through meditation and practice of silence. Shiva Shakti went to the sacred hill Perumal in Salem region, state Tamil Nadu, where she spent few years remaining in meditation and complete silence. In 2003, she came to Tiruvannamalai, where her ashram was created. Since her arrival and creation of the ashram, Shiva Shakti received the respectful title Ammaiyar, Divine Mother, and started to give daily darshans in total silence. In these darshans, people sit on the floor in a spacious hall, and sometime later Shiva Shakti comes there. Darshan starts with Mataji, just sits silently in the armchair. 15 minutes later she stands up and starts to walk around the room, stopping in front of people, giving them direct darshan. The sensations that her numerous followers get are quite different, from delight and total acceptance to critics and charges in quackery. Believe in yourself, believe in God. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in God, you will not be confused by duality in nature. Satya Sai Baba. God is unchanging. God is eternal. He doesn't have the beginning or the end. His permanent form is Atma. But to give form to such manifestation of Atma is just a fruit of human imagination. Nevertheless, the same formless God is coming in a form to make his devotees happy. When devotees implore him to come in a form of Krishna, he appears in the form of Krishna. Answering the prayers of devotees, the Lord also comes as Rama. In reality, both Rama and Krishna do not exist, but God takes these forms to make his devotees happy. So God comes in different forms just to please to his devotees, and in reality, he does not have any form. God does not have any attributes, and for the God who has no attributes, he invents divine form and certain qualities for our own satisfaction. But any form is temporary, and only Atma is eternal and real. And these are you who give different forms to this Atmic principle, and you are misled. But when God comes in the form, we really miss him, worship him, contemplate him and meditate about his form. As long as you see his form, you are full of bliss. But will you experience happiness when there is no form anymore? Bliss is created by your own imagination. A body remains for a certain period of time. Later, it changes its form, such as the body. With the passage of time, the body is doomed to change. Sometime later, you will not see this body. Your nature doesn't have any capability to permanently feel sorrow, having lost this body. When the Divine gets his real nature, you have to be happy and not to be in sorrow. As the body anyhow is transitory and impermanent, the body is doomed to die sooner or later. But the one who lives in the body is permanent, has no limits, and is independent of anything. That's why I never consider this body to be permanent. Depending on time and circumstances, you will be witnessing the existence of the body, but later you will not see the form or communicate with the form. Until recently, Satya Sai Baba was one of the most famous Indian teachers of modern age, and by the number of devotees, unconditionally occupied the first place. Remote village Puttaparthi, where Sai Baba was born, became a busy town with shops, hotels, luxurious hospital, stadium, and even its own airport. But it wasn't always so. In the far 1923, when little Satya Narayana was born, it was a remote, poor village. In ancient times, the settlement flourished. The inhabitants in general were occupied in animal husbandry, but then it became impossible because the region was flooded by ants, which put out of commission both pastures and land. The word Puttaparthi is translated as the ants' hill. The birth of Sai Baba was accompanied by miracles. His mother saw the vision of Lord, and in the day of birth of Sai Baba, musical instruments started to play by themselves. The little Satya Narayana lived in the family of meat-eaters, but from his childhood he adhered to vegetarianism and was known by his aversion to the cruel treatment of animals. Satya Sai Baba embarked upon teaching in a very young age. In March 1940, he started to behave very strangely. It is claimed that the boy was bitten by a scorpion and he was on the brink of life and death. For a long time, Sai Baba got into a trance where he read ancient shlokas. And sometime later, he proclaimed himself reincarnation of the famous saint Sai Baba of Shirdi. He dropped his textbooks and declared, "My devotees are calling me. I have got a job." The youth got a new name, Satya Sai Baba. Devotees started to gather around him. Their number went on growing year by year. In the beginning of 60s, first foreigners appeared in Puttaparthi, and thanks to the books they wrote about Sai Baba, the news about the holy miracle worker went around the world. Numerous Western spiritual seekers in search of wisdom came to Sai Baba's ashram. Sai Baba became especially popular among pragmatic Western seekers thanks to his numerous miracles which continuously accompanied him. A special interest was aroused by a visiting card of Sai Baba, practically continuous materialization of a vibhuti, sacred ashes, and getting out of the air of small decorations, malas, rings, chains, watches, pendants, and so on. Many objects were of pure gold and with precious stones. They were materialized especially for devotees and invariably were presented to people. Many disputes inflamed around these miracles. Some people doubted that materialization takes place in reality. Some even blamed Sai Baba in quackery. But certainly it looked very imposing and convincing, and practically all were attracted by this unique feature of Satya Sai Baba. Sai Baba proclaimed himself an avatar. He claimed that his coming to earth is an unusual triple incarnation of Lord Shiva. First he was born as Sai Baba of Shirdi, then as Satya Sai Baba, and after that there will be next coming of Prema Sai Baba.
Rama Rama Ram, Rama Rama Ram, Rama Rama Ram, Sri Ram.
Sai Baba claimed that Prema Sai Baba will be born in India, in the state Mysore. The Sai Baba's ashram, founded in Puttaparthi, grew together with the fame and popularity of Sai Baba. First pilgrims came to the ashram with many difficulties. There were no normal road from Bangalore to Puttaparthi. There were no comfortable living conditions in the ashram. Many devotees were camping. But with the passage of time, ashram got a temple, huge mandir, a whole range of more or less comfortable guest houses and sheds, hostels for living. Ashram became a whole town. Puttaparthi got a museum, stadium, hospital, college, and even an airport. 24th April 2011, at 7:40 a.m., Sai Baba left his body at the age of 86. The last years he was very sick and less gave traditional darshans to which thousands of people gathered. The territory of Sai Baba's ashram is very big. Prashanti Nilayam is situated behind a high wall and its security system would be envied of some airports. Here not only metal detectors are installed, but every newcomer is passing through mandatory manual search. Moreover, people in shorts, women with open shoulders and skirts above the knee are not allowed into the ashram. The discipline is strictly enforced by the so-called sevadals, numerous helpers, administrators of the ashram. Such entrance mode to the ashram was introduced during the life of Sai Baba, allegedly after repeated attempts on his life. Many newcomers are surprised and irritated by these security measures. They look not only excessive, but in general superfluous and unnecessary, that make people puzzled. Photo and video shooting is prohibited on ashram's territory. Fanatic sevadals are strictly and vigilantly watching this. They need special mention. Sevadals, voluntary helpers, employers and administrators of Satya Sai Baba Ashram create a special caste of people who in the ashram have unlimited power and credentials. It seems that these local Indian peasants, not very educated and decent, got power and are using it diligently, harrying Western pilgrims. You can often see a scene in the ashram when from nowhere appears a person with a handkerchief around his neck and loudly gesticulating blocks the passage, chases, redirects devotees. It seems that especially for this, everything here is partitioned, excessively formalized, subordinated to the regime and the routine. At 9 p.m. the ashram gates close and those coming late are not allowed. If we conditionally draw an analogy, then Sai Baba's ashram can be compared with an institution for children who need to be continuously controlled, to go in order, to sing in choir, observe that they stick to the regime and routine, given orders what and when to do and strictly observe it. Compared to these other ashrams, as Ramana Maharshi's ashram is a place for more mature spiritual seekers, a type of an institute where such reminders are already excessive. That's why they have a somewhat different, more free atmosphere. You may have a different attitude to it, but it perfectly characterizes where and what kind of people gather. But a really mature and free person should stay away of any ashrams and spiritual universities. In general, for Russian women of retirement and pre-retirement age, Satya Sai Baba Ashram got a status of a certain all-spiritual health resort, cheap spa, where it is possible both to bask in the sun and to glow spiritually. Such Russian-speaking women you can meet at every step. Trained eye unmistakably identifies in the crowd our ladies born in the USSR. After the death of Satya Sai Baba, the number of visitors in the ashram became much less. And although the life, services and rituals practically didn't change, but the main element is missing for which people gathered, darshans of Satya Sai Baba, when for a short time he appeared in front of a huge crowd placed in symmetrical rows by sevadals. Due to a decreased number of pilgrims, real estate prices in Puttaparthi fell considerably, as well as the cost of living in guest houses. In Sai Baba's ashram, as well as in Puttaparthi itself, the eye continuously stumbles upon Sai Baba's portraits. They are everywhere, in the shops, on the signboards, on the billboards, on the rickshaws. The most common phrase in Puttaparthi is Sai Ram, with the help of which you can welcome someone or say goodbye, ask forgiveness, or inquire about the right way and even ask the price of fruits. Practically in every Indian ashram, there exists a certain personality cult of the teacher, in honor of whom this ashram was opened. It seems that in Sai Baba's ashram, this cult is elevated to the absolute power. Especially strongly, in this respect, impresses Sai Baba's museum with tasteless, rough Bhagavan's figures put in different decorations. In general, the ashram lives its own life. Here, daily services take place, people sing bhajans, at a certain time a huge line builds up to the shrine of Sai Baba to pay homage to his ashes. At another time, Samadhi is closed for visit and veneration. But whatever is our attitude to Satya Sai Baba and many other teachers and spiritual leaders, all of them are undoubtedly the pointers and not the means of God worshipping, because all the teachers point at the one and the same thing. Idea, I. Roles performed, I. Film director, I. Cameraman, I. Film editor, I. Translator, I. Text read, I. Music, I. Text preparation, I. Producer, I. Indian masters and their ashrams. End of the third part.